Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to the first Ask a Fish episode of the new year. Like 3 weeks in. Worst guitar YouTuber confirmed, but there's a lot of stuff that's already gone down in the guitar world. New releases, new acquisitions, new legal issues even, which I think I'm going to cover in a different video because this is already going to be a long one. I'm sorry in advance, Jordan. Don't forget to join our Discord server if you haven't already. It's a great time, plus that's where I pull all the questions from for these episodes first. And with that, strap in, smack that like button if you go on to enjoy the video. That actually really helps out with the wacky and wild YouTube algorithm. Let's get into your questions. Mattman asks, thoughts on Rabea leaving Chapman Guitars? Yeah, this came out of nowhere, but Rabea posted to his Instagram that, quote, it's an opportunity for change with the new year, and so it's time to do what I feel like I need to do for myself and move on from Chapman Guitars as a signature artist. It's been an amazing 10 years, and I couldn't be more grateful for the love and support I've received from Rob, Lee, and everyone at Chapman Guitars. He goes on to say, just to be crystal clear, it's all good for those wondering. We're still good friends. There are no bad vibes between us at all, just love and support. There's still some of my models left and available from various retailers and online, but after they're gone, they're gone. I have mine and I'll play them from time to time because there's something I'm immensely proud of, and it's a truly great memory and achievement I'll hold on to forever. Wholesome. My first thought though is kind of sad. It's literally the end of an era. I've been following Rabea and Chapman Guitars for years. Rabea was actually my first introduction into baritone guitars with his Chapman signatures. I've met him at NAMM and he is the chillest dude. And his Pro Series signatures, especially the blue Poplar Burl 28-inch scale-length baritone with the Wenge neck, is the sickest guitar Chapman have ever made to date. So it kind of sucks that's not going to be in the lineup anymore. I might have to see if I can snag one before they're all gone. But yeah, I totally get it in a way, especially for those of us who have been watching for a long time. Even now, anytime I watch a Rabea video, there's still that Chapman and Anderton's association, all the more so when he breaks out his Chapman signatures, sick as they may be. So it doesn't really seem like it's about money. He's literally giving up a paycheck. It's just at this stage in his career, he's gotten to the point where he's not that Chapman Anderton's cast member. He's Rabea Masad. So honestly, good for him. And another reason people are talking about this is twofold. One, he's been with Chapman Guitars forever, 10 years. He was the first Chapman signature artist besides Rob himself, I guess. I'm pretty sure Lee only got his signature Cap 10 later on. And two, Rob Scallon, the other big OG signature Chapman artist, also just left last year. He went back to Schecter. Those were the guitars he was playing when he first blew up on YouTube. It was all very heartwarming. Plus, Schecter's a huge company. Their distribution network is world-class. It's not really something you say no to. So I think people online have this morbid curiosity. Does this mean Chapman Guitars is dying? It doesn't seem like it. They struggled last couple of years. Every small guitar company did, but they just dropped a new lineup. Chris Robertson and Blackstone Cherry is playing their guitars. It's now just the next chapter for Rabea and for Chapman Guitars. So I'm curious to see where Rabea ends up, whether he's going to have another signature deal with anyone. He's been using the insanely versatile Line 6 Vari-X guitars for Frog Leap because he's playing sets where he needs to change tunings, change instrument sounds even on the fly. And with that, he can go from a dropped tune guitar to a banjo to a standard tuning guitar instantly. I'm not exactly sure how the system works, but how nuts would it be if he got a signature modern T-style trem Vari-X? Kind of a combination between his current, or I guess now past, Chapman signatures and the Vari-X. From his statement, it doesn't seem like anything's gonna happen for a while, but even if he has no interest in a new deal right now, he's a huge creator, immensely talented. I have no doubt someone is gonna put a ring on it eventually. I don't know, I wish I had something interesting to add here, some sort of insight, but I don't. All I have is my perspective as a fan. And as a fan of Rabea's and the signature guitars he created, it's always sad and exciting to witness the end of an era. And I'll be waiting with bated breath to see what happens next. But that's just my take. Here's where I'll throw it to you. What are your thoughts on the whole situation? Raven6606 asks, hey Hunter, what are your thoughts on Rob Chapman becoming the new co-owner of Guitarmory pickups and Cerberus guitars? And what effects do you think this will have on Chapman guitars? Is this a good or a bad thing? Yeah, a lot happening in the world of Chapman right now. Let's talk about it, because this was kind of huge news. I'd heard of Guitarmory before. They're supposed to be the American version of bare knuckle, high-end, boutique, hand-built pickups. Their range covers a lot of tonal ground, but they mainly focus on high gain territory. Not tried them myself yet, but everyone that I know of that has been impressed. And then Cerberus guitars, which I had not heard of before, but they do super pointy metal guitars. They do US custom shop builds, and they also have an import production line, and it seems to be a very small homegrown operation. And a lot of outlets are reporting that the two companies are US, California based, but what a lot of people are not mentioning with this story is that the two companies are very related. It seems while the two started completely separately, they've since, to some extent, merged. From my 5 minutes of Googling, I wasn't able to figure out exactly how it works, but the two are connected companies, and it's a smart move. A small guitar builder having in-house access to high-quality, well-regarded boutique pickups instead of relying on outside third parties is massive. They don't have to rely on anyone else, they're not rebranding the same generic stuff that everyone else is throwing into their guitars, and they can voice things specifically how they want it to sound for their instruments. That's great. Now, I'll answer the second part of your question first. I don't think this will have any direct effect on Chapman guitars. The Chapman Ghost Fret has been discontinued for a while. They don't have any current pointy metal guitars in production, and that's all Cerberus does. Chapman just launched the British Standard Series, or whatever they're calling the high-end custom shop UK line this time. I already forgot, but it's so new, no one's even gotten their builds yet. And again, it's very separate to the pointy shit Cerberus does at their US custom shop. What I'm saying is they operate in different segments of the market. They're not stepping on each other's toes. They're not going to be cannibalizing each other's sales. So I don't see this affecting Chapman guitars at all, apart from they're probably not going to bring back the Ghost Fret and are probably not going to be doing any more pointy shapes like the V. That'll be Cerberus's domain. If anything, this will help Chapman focus on what it's doing right now with the modernized classics. And I think this is only a good thing from Cerberus' perspective. One, people actually know that this is a brand that exists, like me. And two, my guess is that since Chapman Guitars already has a strong relationship with the factories in Korea and Indonesia, we'll see Cerberus expand its import lines, including more affordable models in the $500-ish range. Think pointy guitars at the Chapman Standard Series level. That's the long-term play. In the short run, I wouldn't expect too much. I think it'll be an interesting one to revisit in 2 to 3 years' time, though. But here's where I'll throw it to you. What do you think of the whole Rob Chapman, Cerberus Guitars, Guitarmory pickups situation? Should be an interesting comment section. It always is. Leave your thoughts down below. Jetstar Dylan asks, what artist do you think deserves a signature that doesn't have one? Discord says, me. Ooh, that's a tough question though, because there are plenty of guitarists I think are super talented that as a fan I'd love to see get a signature model, but for some reason this is an aspect that people tend to forget a lot. A signature model agreement has to be beneficial for everyone. It's not enough to be a virtuoso and mega talented at a guitar if the company doesn't get anything out of it. Obviously it helps, but it doesn't matter how many notes you can play at over 9,000 BPM. You have to be able to sell guitars, or at the very least bring a new audience into the brand. It's a transactional, mutually beneficial agreement. It's not a one-way thing. Off the top of my head, here are 3 artists I think should get signature models. There are definitely way more. In the metalcore world, first one that comes to mind is Jesse Cash of Era. I do not believe the man has ever written an easy riff to play, but his riffs aren't just immensely technical, they're also groovy and catchy as fuck. And that is insanely difficult to pull off. I have no idea how he does it, and I was watching through the playthrough of Snowblood, just blown away. And though I don't really vibe with Ibanez guitars like that, I was watching and I was like, I kind of really want that Ibanez he's playing. He's such an inspirational guitarist in metalcore right now. Era's last album was absolutely incredible. I'd love to see him collaborate with Ibanez on a signature. Then the guitarists from Wage War, Seth Blake and Cody Quaistad. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that last name right. I apologize, we move. Wage War is another big band in the modern American metalcore scene at the moment. They're one of my favorites. Their riffs are just so bouncy and groovy. And they've been big Fender guys for years, even slapping EMGs into regular Jazzmasters and Squier Telly Deluxes before moving on to the Jim Root models. And look, Jim Root is metal royalty, right? But right now, he's really Fender's only metal guy with a current production signature line. And they're great, The Jazzmaster is my favorite Fender of all time, but Fender would do well to have torchbearers from the next metal generation for their brand also. And there's no current generation metal band I can think of that's as good a fit, that has as much history with Fender as Wage War has. And last but not least, I'm surprised that Gibson and Epiphone haven't done anything with Jake from Greta Van... I nearly said Zeppelin, Greta Van Fleet. I think they're one of the few bands that both the TikTok and the I miss the days where they played real music on the radio crowds get behind. And his main guitar is a vintage 1961 Cherry Red SG. It looks awesome. Epiphone and Gibson already make production versions of the 61 SG, so, you know, maybe they changed the color or something. But a Jake Kiszka Epiphone signature inspired by a 61 SG makes total sense. It's attractive to both the new players getting into guitar and the people with disposable income. So those are the first artists that come to mind that I think should get signature guitars, or at least I think would be really cool. Bearing in mind that a feasible, mutually beneficial deal is a key requirement to any signature guitar, who would you like to see get a signature model, and with what brand? Emily asks, thoughts on the new Ibanez lineup? So actually I just dropped a whole ass video on all the new electric guitars and the new hyped up Axe Design Lab series. Gave my initial thoughts and overall impressions in that video, a link in the cards and in the description, so I'm not just repeating myself for anyone that's already seen it. Essentially, a few big standouts, a lot of general meh though. In fairness, I'm not the biggest Ibanez guy. The necks just don't do it for me. But in that video, I actually missed a couple of standouts that we should talk about. Shout out to Zad the Inhaler. Dude, how come no one mentioned anything about the SRC6 MS, the multi-scale version of the amazing SRC6, which was basically the Fender Bass 6, but better? Get on it, bruh. Yeah, my bad, dude. So the SRC6 MS, I struggle with Ibanez names, whatever, we move. The guitar is kind of crazy, or bass is kind of crazy. It's not one of the more visually outrageous basses in the collection. Ibanez has some insane looking basses every year that tend to get most of the attention, so things like the SRC6 multiscale unfortunately sometimes get overlooked. And that's a real shame, and I apologize because as Zad the Inhaler pointed out, it's one of the cooler ones in the lineup. They likened it to a better Fender Bass 6, and I can see it. Quick background, if you're not a normal bass player, a normal P bass has a 34-inch scale length. The Bass 6 has a 30-inch scale length, which, as a modern chord player, I'd personally call a baritone, but Fender themselves classify the Bass 6 as a bass. Their justification is the tuning. They say baritone guitars are normally tuned a 4th down, or a major 5th down, or whatever any of that means. I don't know, I ain't no music scientist. The Bass 6, meanwhile, is tuned a full octave down. Not sure I buy that, but it's their classification criteria. We move. Now, the problem with the 30-inch scale length is that's a lot of string tension on the treble strings. My luthier Wendell likes to say that bends and vibrato is where you really hear a guitarist's voice. He's right. Every guitarist bends and vibrato slightly differently. It's like a sonic fingerprint. And having such high string tension, making the bends more difficult, you can really neuter that voice. And so that's why a 28-inch to a 30-inch multi-scale Bass 6 with the shorter treble string scale length is so cool. You know, a 28-inch scale length is still not small, but every inch counts. The rest of the specs are great too. A Kame body, 5-piece Jatoba walnut neck, rosewood fingerboard. Then it's got dual Bartolini BH2 soap bars, and an absolutely ridiculous preamp system. I'll just have Jordan throw up the diagrams here because there's a ton going on. This might be the one time where you might actually want to read the user manual if you pick one of these up. But dude, between this and the half-fretted, half-fretless bass, the Ibanez Bass Workshop is killing it. The Axe Design Lab, they need to step it up. And if you liked the concept of Tim Henson's TOD-10N nylon string thin body acoustic, but weren't sold on the extravagant visuals, Ibanez also announced the FRH-10N in natural flat and Browne sunburst flat. Now this is more akin to what Scott LePage has been playing. Same general specs as Tim Henson's TOD-10N, but traditional acoustic looks, no Tree of Death inlay, more simplified electronics, no Fishman Sonicore pickup, but at $200 less, you also get an Ibanez undersaddle pickup. So those are the two highlights that I missed, but for the rest, check the link in this corner. Listen, new year, still getting back in the swing of things. But yeah, link will be in the cards in one of the corners and in the description for my full thoughts as a metal Les Paul player on the new pointy Ibanez lineup. Quick update though on the Ibanez 2023 situation. I was just quickly scrolling through the Ibanez website trying to get some assets for my Ibanez short, and it seems like someone messed up and accidentally published a future version of the website that's since been rolled back. Now, I only got a quick glimpse, but in that future version, the 2023 lineup was a lot more fleshed out, and I mistakenly assumed they'd already done a second drop, so I sadly didn't take a screenshot. Again, worst guitar YouTuber confirmed, but I do remember there was at least a baby blue Steve Vai Pia that's up on Sweetwater's website for pre-order, and a red Kiko signature that still isn't, but you can find listings on Reverb. So yeah, confirmed, more 2023 Ibanez incoming. Probably we'll see more confirmations around NAMM time. Now it's time to talk about new guitar releases. Keep these on your radar. John Browne of Monuments has followed Aaron Marshall of Intervals in leaving boutique Polish builder Ibanez and has just announced a signature line with Schecter. There are 3 models, the Tau 6, the Tau 7, and you guessed it, the Tau 8, all with identical specs, apart from the number of strings and the scale length. The 6 has a 25.5-inch scale, while the 7 and the 8 interestingly have the same 27-inch scale length. Usually Schecter 7 strings have a 26.5-inch scale. Made in Korea, swamp ash body, flame maple veneer, and an incredible bolt-on 5-piece Wenge Padauk ultra-thin U-neck. 16-inch radius ebony fingerboard with no inlays, so clean. 24 extra jumbo stainless steel frets, lumen lay side dots, hip shot hardtail and open gear locking tuners, custom voiced Schecter USA Colossus and Chaos Breaker humbuckers exclusive for this model, so you know, probably low wind PAF inspired. I mean, you gotta love Schecter, man. The spec sheet reads like a modern metal player's wet dream. Obviously, the specs aren't identical, but the entire thing kind of reminds me of a bolt-on version of the Keith Merrow KM7 Mark III that's my current go-to 7-string. Then it comes in purple, that beveled headstock is sick too. And John Browne is an incredible player. The first time I heard his playing, it was a playthrough of Leviathan, and it blew my mind. The rhythm, the groove, combined with these crazy, intricate chord voicings that were constantly in motion. It was like, what the fuck is happening? This is awesome. And he was doing this shit on beautiful Ibanez guitars loaded with bare knuckles. So of course they were fucking expensive. We're talking $4 to $5 grand. They're super high-end hand-built instruments. These Schecters, mass-produced in South Korea, much more reasonable with these specs, at least in this day and age, at about $1,600. Yeah, gonna have to see what my guy at Schecter is up to after I'm done filming, because I think it's time to give 8-string another go. But what are your thoughts on this one? And now that we're getting to the end of the video, in case you missed it, since last Ask a Fish, actually it's been a while, Ibanez released their 2023 lineup, or at least the first part of it, did a breakdown, gave some of my thoughts about it and where Ibanez is going this year. PRS also dropped their 2023 lineup. There's some huge announcements, including finally an SE McCarty line. If you already know why that's a big deal, I don't need to explain. If you don't know why that's a big deal, check that video out. Plus, same thing, some of my thoughts on the lineup and where PRS is going this year. Then a bunch of 2022 recap content, the ultimate in case you missed it. Uploaded my top 5 albums/songs of 2022. It was a good year for metal. Nah, it was a great year for metal. When is it not a great year for metal, in fairness? Then the 2022 Ag Awards, talking the best and the worst guitars and gear. A lot of single cut focus, because obviously you know what channel this is, but actually that's not what took the #1 spot. And finally uploaded an quote-unquote EP of sorts, basically a compilation of all the riffs and demo tracks written over the course of the year. Links to all those in the cards and in the description. But that will do it for this episode of Ask a Fish. No sponsor this week, so extra massive shout out to the awesome patrons who make this and all the other content possible. If you want to support the channel as well, you can get bonus extras, link in the description. You can also join as a YouTube member or grab yourself some merch. That really helps the channel if you like what I do. Social media, affiliate, and Discord server links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I will see you for the next video.